Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to start a fascinating journey into Unit 2, titled Crime Doesn't Pay. This is the first slide, serving as our cover. Today, we'll be focusing on conversation and listening skills related to this important topic. We'll explore various aspects of crime, its consequences, and how to communicate effectively about these issues. So, let's get started and make this session engaging and insightful. All right, so on this slide, we're going to answer some questions about the conversation. This is a great way to check if we really understood what was said. Think of it like having a quick chat, listening carefully for specific details. When we listen, we want to catch key facts, like names, dates, or main ideas. And don't forget, using new words in sentences helps us remember them better and makes our communication clearer. So, as we go through, keep in mind how these questions relate to the overall topic. It's all about connecting the dots and making sure we're getting the big picture. Let's dive in and practice this together. So here we see a wallet, and what's happening to the people holding these wallets? They're being pickpocketed. This might seem like a simple act, but it actually highlights how vulnerable people can be in everyday situations. When someone's wallet is stolen, it's not just about losing money or cards, it's about losing a sense of security and trust. This scenario connects to our broader theme of security and awareness. It reminds us that in our increasingly digital world, just like in physical spaces, we need to stay alert and protect ourselves from unseen threats. Whether it's pickpocketing in the street or cyber theft online, understanding these risks helps us better safeguard our personal information and possessions. So what's the difference here? Let's look at the phrase to pickpocket, which is the verb form meaning to steal from someone's pocket. Now, when we say a pickpocket, we're referring to the person who performs the act, essentially the thief. Moving on, pickpocketed is the past tense, indicating that the act has already happened, meaning someone was robbed. And finally, we see a pickpocket, then a dash, then pickpocket, and finally pickpocketed, which shows different forms of the same root word, highlighting how the word changes depending on its usage. This variation in forms is important because it helps us understand the different roles and tenses involved when discussing theft. Connecting this to our overall theme, it's a good example of how language evolves and how context changes the meaning, especially in legal or criminal discussions. So, understanding these subtle differences is key to clear communication and precise language, particularly when addressing complex topics like crime and justice. A pickpocket is someone who does this. To pickpocket means to steal things from another person's pockets. It's an act that involves sneaking in and taking belongings without permission. When we talk about pickpocket as both a verb and a noun, it helps us understand the role and the action. The key point here is that pickpocketing is a form of theft, often done quickly and discreetly in crowded places. Understanding this behavior is important as we look at different types of crimes and how they impact society. This slide highlights the importance of being aware of such tactics so we can stay vigilant and protect ourselves. Let's take a look at Students' Book page 24. This page is really important because it ties together some of the key ideas we've been discussing. As you go through this page, you'll notice it emphasizes the importance of understanding the core concepts deeply. It's not just about memorizing facts, but really engaging with the material. Pay attention to how the content connects to the overall theme of the presentation, which is about developing critical thinking skills. This page encourages you to analyze information carefully and ask questions, skills that are essential for learning effectively. So, when you review this page, try to think about how these concepts apply to your own experiences or studies. Remember, the goal is to not just know the information, but to understand it well enough to use it confidently. Now, when pickpockets encounter their target, they might bump into them accidentally or even act very friendly, like shaking hands to establish trust. This helps lower the victim's guard and makes the theft easier. But what do they do before actually committing the crime? Well, they spend time looking for potential victims who are distracted, often by looking at buildings, maps, or taking photos. Tourists are especially common targets because they're usually focused on their surroundings and less aware of their belongings. So, how do pickpockets choose their victims? They tend to observe crowds and identify people who seem distracted or preoccupied. The key is to spot those who are not paying full attention, those looking at things around them rather than their bags or pockets. In essence, pickpockets are strategic. They look for people who are easy to approach and unlikely to notice the theft. Understanding this behavior helps us stay alert and protect ourselves when we're out in busy places. So, on this slide, we see that Albert has stolen his wallet right from his pocket. It's a simple yet powerful example to illustrate how pickpocketing works. Now, why do you think Ali is surprised at the end of this conversation? Well, it's because Ali probably wasn't expecting Albert to actually take his wallet in such a straightforward manner. It highlights how easily these situations can unfold when you're not paying close attention. Next, notice that Ali acts out what the pickpocket does. This is a key point because physical demonstration helps us understand the technique and the subtle movements involved. When someone mimics a pickpocket's actions, it makes it clearer how quickly and smoothly they operate. And then, when Albert says, "Like this," what do you think he's doing? He's likely demonstrating the precise move or method of how he managed to steal the wallet. It's a way of teaching or showing someone how it's done, often used in training or awareness sessions. Overall, this slide emphasizes the importance of being vigilant and understanding the tricks of pickpockets. By observing and practicing these actions, we can better protect ourselves. It's about recognizing the tactics and staying alert in everyday situations. Let's take a closer look at some common phrases and what they reveal about mindset and behavior. First, we have Ali asking, "Who says I'm positive?" This highlights how sometimes people doubt their own confidence or resilience. Then Ali also questions, "Who says are you kidding? Come on," which points to skepticism or disbelief, perhaps when someone doubts your intentions or abilities. Moving on to Albert, who asks, "Who says nabbed?" This term suggests catching or seizing an opportunity, but it also hints at the idea of competition or conflict. Next, Albert questions, "Who says let your guard down?" This is a reminder that in many situations, lowering your defenses can be risky. It's about knowing when to trust and when to stay alert. Then he asks, "Who says by accident?" which challenges the notion of randomness, emphasizing that many outcomes are deliberate or have underlying causes. Finally, Albert asks, "Who says easy mark?" This term is often used to describe someone who's an easy target, reminding us to be aware of vulnerabilities that others might try to exploit. Overall, these questions encourage us to think critically about how we perceive ourselves and others, especially in high-stakes or uncertain situations. Understanding these phrases helps us recognize the importance of awareness and mindset in navigating complex interactions. Let's take a moment to read the words on the slide and understand their meanings. This step is important because it helps us build a strong vocabulary, which is essential for effective communication. When we look at these words, think about how they relate to the overall theme of our presentation. Knowing their meanings allows us to use them correctly and confidently in our own conversations and writings. So, as I go through each word, I encourage you to consider not just the definition, but also how it connects to the bigger picture we're exploring today. Let's talk about how pickpocketing often happens. One common tactic is to look for someone who isn't walking quickly or seems distracted. Then, the thief might pretend to bump into the victim by accident, creating a moment of confusion. They'll often shake hands and act friendly to gain trust and lower suspicion. While the victim's attention is on this fleeting interaction, the pickpocket seizes the opportunity to take the wallet. After that, they walk away quickly, blending back into the crowd. Recognizing these subtle signs can help you stay alert and protect your belongings in busy environments. So, which one does Albert use? This is a great question because it really gets to the heart of understanding his approach. When we look at Albert's methods, we want to identify the specific strategies or tools he relies on most. Is he leaning more towards traditional techniques, or does he incorporate innovative or unconventional methods? Understanding which approach he uses helps us see how he applies his knowledge in real-world situations. It also illustrates the broader theme of the presentation, which is about choosing the right tools and techniques for different circumstances. So, as we analyze Albert's choices, think about how his preferred approach aligns with the overall goal of effective problem-solving and decision-making. This connection is key to understanding the bigger picture we're trying to convey. Today, I want to talk about how you can recognize dangerous people or situations before they escalate. One effective way is to take a self-defense class. Not only does this boost your confidence, but it also teaches you how to handle yourself if you ever find yourself in a tricky situation. Another important tip is to avoid unfamiliar locations. Sticking to well-lit, populated areas can significantly reduce your risk. It's all about staying aware of your surroundings and trusting your instincts. Staying alert is key. Always pay attention to what's happening around you. This vigilance can help you spot potential threats early on and react accordingly. If possible, try not to travel alone, especially at night or in less secure areas. Having a companion can provide an extra layer of safety and support. Finally, keep valuables out of sight. Displaying expensive items can attract unwanted attention and make you a target. By being mindful of what you carry and how you present yourself, you can help keep yourself safe. These simple but effective strategies tie into the overall theme of staying proactive and aware to protect yourself in daily life. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's look at some key terms that often come up in these cases. When we say display, we're talking about showing or presenting evidence clearly. Assume is important because, in investigations, we sometimes have to assume certain facts based on the available information. Pavement might seem straightforward, but it can be relevant in cases involving accidents or damage to outdoor surfaces. When we say installed, we're referring to something put into place, which can be critical when verifying the origin or legitimacy of certain modifications or repairs. Now, coincidence is a term that often pops up. It's about whether events happening together are just a coincidence or if there's a deeper connection. The word grim sets a serious tone, reminding us that these situations can have severe consequences. Suspect is a key concept. Identifying who might be responsible is central to any investigation. Then we have insured, which brings in the aspect of financial protection. Understanding who is insured and what they are covered for can influence the outcome significantly. Altogether, these words help us piece together the puzzle, connecting evidence, assumptions, and responsibilities, bringing us closer to understanding the case thoroughly. All right, let's wrap things up with some practical application. On page 230 of your workbook, you'll find exercise G. I encourage you to take some time to work through it, as it's designed to reinforce the concepts we've discussed today. Think of this as your homework, an opportunity to deepen your understanding and solidify what you've learned. Remember, the key points we've covered are not just theoretical, they're tools you can apply in real-life situations. So I urge you to approach this exercise thoughtfully and thoroughly. Connecting these practical activities to our overall theme helps ensure that the skills stay with you long after this session. Thanks for your attention and engagement. See you in the next session.